if we all had access to this type of learning early in our career, I think it would have changed the trajectory of my career a little bit. I think I would have been a little bit more brave and a little bit less apologetic about who I am.
This is 401k Specialist Editor-in-Chief Brian Anderson, and this is the 401k Specialist Podcast. Today, we're excited to welcome back to the podcast well-known 401k industry marketing and branding expert, Sheri Fitts. We're going to talk about her upcoming conference event, Sway Live, now in its third year, and some exciting developments that will help make this year's conference, set for August 3rd through 5th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the biggest and best one yet. Welcome back to the 401k Specialist Podcast, Sheri.
Brian, it's awesome to have a chance to hang out with you again. And thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate that. It's fun to hang out with you. And I'm really looking forward to you joining us at Sway. And that's going to be super fun. So yay,
That's
all around.
Right. We're all looking forward to it. I imagine at this point, you're totally immersed in planning and preparations for Sway Live in early August. And I know working out all the logistics for an event like this takes a ton of time. So how goes the planning?
Well, I'll tell you that one of the things I did, which a lot of event managers know this already, is I got a chance to go tour the facility a couple of weeks ago. And that was really exciting, just to be able to kind of take this vision that I have in my head and put it into reality at the hotel. So I will tell you that the planning is furious. You'll meet an individual, Susan Lump, who is the back of the room guru and goddess. And we were just on a call about 5 minutes ago, running through the list. You know, it's exciting. I'm very excited. And we are already over the tickets sold from last year. So we're going to sell out, Brian. We are.
All right. That's great. Yeah. Great news. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about what makes this event quite a bit different from the usual 401k or retirement industry trade show. It's billed as the only conference dedicated to helping financial professionals amplify their personal brand. And I've heard you say it's kind of like taking the idea of personal branding and putting it on steroids. So tell us more about what makes Sway Live unique and why you felt it was important to provide this kind of intentionally non-corporate type of content.
Well, when I think, especially, we started Sway Live at the advent of, 2023, right? ChatGPT was just kind of starting to happen. And when I think about the noise that's taking place and the ability to mimic voices and imagery and all the things, I've been saying for a really long time, humanity and who we are and how we show up really matters. And that can't be even more true. And when I looked at the agenda that are rightfully focused on technical issues, because those are crucial across the financial services industry, and I'm thinking, what's missing here? Well, what's missing here is addressing the human being at the core of everything they do. And so that's really what makes Sway Live different, is that we lean into that part of our professional selves, right? We lean into what does it mean to use digital resources and this way that we can all, radio station, podcasting, right? Blog, newspaper, all of the channels that we have to publish are available to all of us. So, we've got that, but how do we lean into that while maintaining a really clear idea of who we are, what we stand for, and who we're here to help? Because if you don't have that clarity, you're just making noise, So that's a little bit about what makes it different. And then there's music, and then there's art, things that fill out people's lives outside of conferences, but not a lot of stuff going on inside. So yeah, there's a little bit of that too.
Okay. Well, and you've long championed the power of storytelling and emotional connection in financial services. How might attending the conference help advisors and other retirement industry pros that are going sharpen those skills?
Well, one of the big things that I try to tell people is, and what I notice is, how can we as an industry claim the transformation that takes place in the people that we help in a way that helps more people? And I know that's a little bit like, explain that. And what it is how can we tell stories about ourselves? How can we change the stories we tell ourselves, about who we are, and how can we help people create really remarkable stories in their lives as a result of helping them. So, it's definitely on Sunday, it's asking ourselves the question, what's the stories that we tell ourselves? On Monday, it's the question of what stories do we want to share? What stories do we want to share, and how can we use the power of stories to connect? And then on Tuesday, it's all around, okay, now that you kind of have those two things rolling, how can you put story into the work that you're doing as a means of really connecting? Because we know that storytelling actually connects us, not just on an emotional level, but a biochemical level, in how it mimics, in our brain, in the neurotransmitters that happen in our body. And so it's an essential skill set that professionals need to really tap into more, I think. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, looking at the agenda, can you tell us about some of the topics that are going to be covered, and maybe highlight one or two of the sessions that you probably wouldn't find at your typical retirement industry conference?
Well, a couple of things. Wow, there's so many. Okay, really fast. Let's see. Day one, we're having a gentleman who is an Afghanistani vet tell a story of purpose, really, and what he did at the 10-year anniversary of him losing 4 members of his command on one day, and what that did to kind of shift his perspective and really create more purpose in his life. So there's that. And then it's followed with a woman who was very high up in the tech scene, technology and other kind of, Silicon Valley organizations, who's now stepped into breath work, which is like, whoa, what about that? So really, and then the afternoon, we're having somebody who helps screenwriters in Hollywood tighten up their stories, tell us how we can use story even further in our lives. So I try to do a mix, Brian, of people that we might know and get to see a perspective of them that's slightly different, and people that we don't know, people that we don't get exposed to at our standard industry conferences. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the new developments for this year's event, if I may share a couple. Well, for one, I want to mention that it was recognized by Michael Kitz's popular Nerd's Eye View blog as one of the best 18 financial advisor conferences to attend in 2025. So congrats on that. And also earlier this year, we announced that 401k Specialist is going to be an official media partner at Sway Live. So we're excited to be a part of this as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this already being the third annual edition, are there any lessons you've learned from putting on the previous events that helped you in planning this year's event?
How much time do we have? I thought you said we only had 15 minutes, Brian. Okay, to anybody doing an event, call me so that I can help you. One of the big things is audio visual is a thing, and you need to budget for it. And whatever you budget, I'll just tell you, will never be enough. Certainly learning about, I've run events throughout my career, and absolutely, know that. I think it's unique when you get to sign your name on a $60,000 commitment to a hotel. I mean, that's like, right?
Scary stuff.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I've certainly learned that. I also think, and I was talking to Susan this morning, the challenging thing about putting together an agenda, and frankly, what's different about it is this is not an agenda by committee. And that, for good or for bad, this is an agenda by Sheri Fitts. And there have been people who have made suggestions about how maybe we might want to do things differently at Sway. And I think to myself, that's for another conference. So what I've learned is to trust my instincts on the agenda. There's that. And also the challenging thing is, much like a smorgasbord, I always pile way too much on my plate, even though I'm like, just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. And then before you know it, you've got a 5-pound thing you're carrying back to your table. So that's still really hard, putting the pieces of the agenda together and letting people have enough time to breathe and kind of reflect.
Right. Right. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention is that this event really kind of brings together a cross section of the retirement industry, with attendees being retirement plan advisors, TPAs, record keepers, really just about anyone involved in the industry that wants to elevate their branding and learn how to be even more effective at their jobs. How would you describe a typical attendee, if there is such a thing, or what kind of traits might they have in common?
We have a couple of different kind of client personas. The first is a professional in our industry that kind of is in the middle of a pivot of some sort. So they've got an idea that there's something more for them in this industry, and they're on the journey of trying to kind of figure that out. So that's certainly one. The other one is, and I'm super proud of this, which is that I'm actively pursuing the next generation of marketing professionals, of sales professionals, really pushing that to bring them, because if we all had access to this type of learning early in our career, I think it would have changed the trajectory of my career a little bit. I think I would have been a little bit more brave and a little bit less apologetic about, who I am. So I actively pursue those next gen folks. I think the other thing about it is it stretches even beyond the retirement plan community, in that my desire is for the full kind of ecosystem of financial services to attend. So I actively reach out to wealth management individuals. And, with this kind of aggregation that's taking place, also reaching out to employee benefits individuals as well. And here's the other thing that might bite me in the bum, is that for individuals who work for record keepers and fund companies that are not sponsors, I am still actively pursuing having them join us at Sway, because I believe that the content will serve them as well. And I do not have a requirement that you be a sponsor to attend. So that's a little bit different. And what that does do is raise just my appreciation and gratitude to the sponsors that are willing to, as Kellen Craig said, plant a tree under whose shade they may not sit, right? And so as it grows, if you've got something that's gnawing at you, that you think that there's something different waiting for you as far as your career or where you want to go, this is definitely the place to come and explore that. I do know of one individual who was sitting there last year, and by day 2 on Monday or whatever, she had decided, I'm in the wrong job. I'm doing the wrong thing, and quit her job and started a company. Now that's risk taking. And you don't have to do that. You could just come and go, okay, I'll do one more post on LinkedIn a week. That's fine, right? So.
All right. Well, now beyond running this event, curious as to what else you're up to this year. I imagine there's your usual amount of speaking engagements at events and other things all over the place.
Well, the other thing I forgot to say is what's different about Sway this year than previous years is, Brian, your support and the support of the 401k Specialist magazine. And I'm super excited that you're going to be on a thought leadership panel, which I kind of like, you are doing this. You're like, oh, okay. I really love having the press involved in the things that we do. I've always been, a big fan of having the press participate. And because just like partnering up with partners with DCIO firms or whatever, it's always good to really support the people in the press. They help us get to the bottom of things or learn more. So I'm very excited that you're going to be there. And thank you for letting me strong arm you onto the agenda. And you guys, you don't see, but Ashley is the producer of this particular podcast, and she's coming too, which excites me to no end. So there's going to be some podcasting folks there as well, which is really fun. Maybe in a couple of years, we'll even have a little podcasting corner. We'll have, this corner, video corner, whatever it is. So what am I doing? I just got back from speaking at a advisory shop conference in Albert Lee, Minnesota. If you know where that is, then you know where I was speaking. But like any kind of entrepreneur, juggling things is pretty challenging. And right now, serving the people of the Sway community and the Sway Collective, which is my ongoing membership community where we get to keep learning things, is pretty much what's right in front of me right now. Definitely, though, hey, people, if you are scheduling events in this fall and need a bad aspiration speaker, call me. I'd love to talk to you. Yeah, there we go.
Great. Yep. All right. So once again, Sway Live set for August 3rd through 5th at the Trade Hotel in downtown Milwaukee. And we have a link to the event's website with all the details and registration info on that for the on the homepage of this podcast. So, Sheri Fitts, I look forward to being there and experiencing the event. And I want to thank you again for joining us today on the 401k Specialist Podcast.
And the crowd goes wild. Thank you, Brian.